topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Dallas-Fort Worth. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where for the last 16 years, we've brought you the finest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. We have got a great health show for you today. I got to tell you, this is one of these shows where I'm mesmerized. I could sit and listen to Dr. David Markham for hours. His knowledge of holistic medicine is just it's overwhelming, and I do so many health shows. Let me welcome you to our show, Dr. David Markham of Integrative Wellness FX. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Steve-O. It's nice to be here with you guys again.
I love doing this show, David. You have got so much knowledge when it comes to holistic medicine. I have learned so many things from you, and by the emails we get, our listeners love you. Tell people about your practice, first of all.
Yeah, the practice is called Integrative Wellness FX, and we're a functional medicine clinic here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And we serve through telemedicine people all over Texas. And we have a variety of doctors here trained in functional medicine to be able to support people with complex chronic disease, autoimmunity, gut issues, eczema, all inflammatory disease. And we address the root cause of that. So to your life.
David, let's talk about food, nutrition. Are food sensitives and food allergies the same thing? And how can someone know which they have?
Okay. Could you repeat that? Excuse me, everyone in the audience. I'm having some power outage issues all day, and things are a little spotty here. Could you repeat the question?
Sure, David. Are food sensitivities and food allergies the same thing? And how can someone know which ones they have?
Yeah, they're definitely different, and sometimes everyone calls everything a food allergy, and most of the time they actually have a food sensitivity. And a food allergy that's a true one, you might have an anaphylactic reaction where you're unable to breathe and you have hives and things all over the body, and it can be a life-threatening event. Where a food sensitivity is something that happens much more delayed. It doesn't happen right away. Sometimes it can be hours later. Sometimes it can be even a day or two later. And it can create just higher inflammatory response throughout the body. And so sometimes that can lead into brain fog or into gut issues and bloating, or can lead into diarrhea, constipated, other gut issues, obviously, but also other skin issues, just irritations and inflammation throughout the body. And so when people have these here, it doesn't mean that they can't have that food ever again forever. I think that's an important point, because a lot of times you go to a doctor, even like myself, and they put you on an extreme diet to give you a food sensitivity test, which is great. You can get one to look at all the antibodies for the very specific foods that you are actually sensitive to, that you're innocuous. These foods are not something that are dangerous, obviously, to you. Your body is just kind of faulty and attacking thing it's not supposed to. And so we can get a test like this and we can avoid some of these foods and we can feel a little bit better, but that doesn't fix the problem. So the problem is just that there is usually some gut damage, something called intestinal permeability or leaky gut. And so when there is a damage to this barrier that separates the external world from the internal world, a lot of the food particles that we eat start coming across into the bloodstream. And our body sees these foreign molecules and proteins, so our body starts to then attack these things, thinking it's a pathogen. And it's really just food particles that aren't being digested that are coming across when they're not supposed to, of course, but our immune system gets confused, and then we develop that food sensitivity. So a lot of times when the gut has leaky gut or there's some damage, the foods we love to eat the most are the foods that we start getting sensitive to. So that's why even if you are a lot of things, you only can eat chicken. If you eat chicken every day, sometimes you lose the ability to eat chicken because you start seeing that protein constantly. You start making antibodies to it, and then now you're sensitive to that. So that's constantly shifting, and you just avoiding that food obviously is not going to fix the problem. But the way to fix it actually is just to fix the gut. And so we have a process in functional medicine called the 5R framework of gut restoration. It recognizes the complexity of the gut and how to not just, fix things here at the lining of the gut so things stop coming across, but we need to rebalance the microbiome. We need to kill off any fungus or bacterial overgrowth. We have to make sure our digestive fire is strong with lots of acidity to break down the foods so we stop feeding all this fungus and bacteria. And we need to so important. And so when we do all 5 of the things at the same time and the gut is nice and sealed, then the food particles aren't coming across anymore every time we eat. The immune systems are to relax and calm down, and then symptoms throughout the body start moving in the right direction. You start feeling better. You start able to absorbing all your foods, all your other supplements better. This is why we always start with gut work often, because if there are gut issues, if we fix that, everything else works better. It's the biggest bang for the buck.
David, why do some people feel bloating even though they eat healthy?
Yeah. Well, I like this concept here of just, changing your diet and thinking that's going to fix everything. I think that's something faulty that we need to move past at this day and age, because back in the day, yeah, you could just go gluten or dairy free or go paleo and you would start to feel better. But the severity of disease is really worsening in society. And people, for a variety of different reasons, just have so much actual microbial overgrowth inside their guts. And these microbes are supposed to be more in the colon, the large intestine. But over time, they actually will migrate into the small intestine for a variety of different reasons. And the small intestine is where we are supposed to break down our foods to absorb our nutrients. But there's all this bacteria and fungus like Candida in this place instead. A lot of that's broken down by these microbes instead. And these microbes ferment these foods, especially the foods that they love to eat, like the carbs, grains, sugars, starchy foods. And these are the things that feed this overgrowth, and it turns it into gas, indigestion, and all these toxic byproducts here. So that can even push up build pressure if all the is one thing where you want to start avoiding some of these foods for a period of time. And if it's a mild overgrowth, sometimes we can shift that automatically through diet. A lot of times these overgrowths are much stronger and they're kind of really refined. There's been a lot of antibiotic use. There's been a lot of sugar in things for a long period of time. The immune system is weak. The gut is damaged. So we want to do that 5R framework of gut restoration. We want to actually use antimicrobials, these natural antibiotics, to actually kill some of this fungus and the bacteria. But, a lot of people focus on just killing, but they forget the other steps of the rebalancing and the inoculating of the microbiome, the repairing of the system here. So it's important to do it more holistically, and we can have much more balance and really fix things for the long term when we do this deeper work. So even people with more extreme overgrowth, sometimes it takes 2 months is an average, I would say. Some people do more, some people do less, but it's good with just as a framework that doesn't happen overnight. And you do need medicine a lot of times to be able to really have that long lasting gains.
Barbara in Haltom City just wrote, I am so hooked on your show, Dr. Morcom. Last show you talked about acid reflux. Did I hear you right saying if you drink water or eat before you go to bed, that could be one of the causes of acid reflux?
Yeah. So it's not maybe a cause, it's maybe more of an aggravator or trigger. And so, if you drink too much water when you eat, that dilutes the stomach acid, and then we're not able to break down the food as well. And then we can't break down the food as well, it feeds something else. Instead of being broken down by us, it feeds these microbes, which can create the gas and the acid, which then can push up to lead into heartburn and reflux, as we were talking about. And the digestion also slows down past dark, past 7 or 8 p.m. The pancreas just doesn't work as well. And so eating a big meal can lead into just not breaking down those foods, fermentation, and the same phenomena and symptoms. But the fixing of it is still, dealing with some of this overgrowth and some of the other causes of bloating and gas here. But also, the vagal nerve. This is a nerve that actually it controls the ability to close the lower esophageal sphincter. And a lot of people just have bloating and gas, but some people actually have heartburn and reflux. It's because their lower esophageal sphincter is not able to close well. And that's a neurological nervous system aspect. And there's reasons that cause that, whether it's chronic stress or toxins like mercury that can really poison this nervous system, or neck injuries, and the vagus nerve is not being able to get input to these areas in the gut, in these areas here.
She did a follow-up question. What are foods to stay away from if you have acid reflux?
Well, a lot of the foods to stay away from are two different categories. One category is the things that are feeding some of this bacterial fungal overgrowth, if that's part of the route for you. Again, carbs, grain, sugar, starchy foods, not having too many beans, legumes, potatoes, and things like that. Gluten and dairy, of course, which are not only feeding the fungus bacteria, but also create a lot of inflammation in the gut. And people are so inflamed these days that just really cutting out gluten, dairy, that's a easy, low-hanging fruit. Takes some month or two sometimes to fix the overgrowth, to detox the system, to get people feeling better, but they can stop and change diet and stop gluten and dairy very quickly to start having some benefit. But the other category of things that things like that can be irritating to this, that makes this lower esophageal sphincter not work as well.
What is the difference between taking, say, probiotic and actually healing your gut?
Well, we have to think about, why is the gut imbalanced in the first place? And often there has been a lot of antibiotic use on top of eating a lot of the foods that they like for long periods of time. And we develop communities of bacteria based off the food and things we provide them. So over the years, we have some more of these pathological colonies that like these carbs and sugars. And a lot of interesting research shows the connection between the microbes in our gut and our mental health and our own cravings. And sometimes when we have a lot of candida overgrowth, patients will always report how much they crave sugars and how much they just really want to eat all the things that this candida really likes to eat, actually. And there's an aspect of it controlling you. And when you have good foods that it likes to eat, it gives you endorphins and dopamine to say, hey, eat more of that food. And when you eat things it doesn't like, it starts to die and release toxins and things. So what was the main question again?
What is the difference between taking a probiotic and actually healing your gut?
Yeah. So, we can take, more fermented foods as well. That's a natural source. And I do recommend that highly, is integrating that into your diet, because it's also a lot more cost effective. Probiotics can get pretty expensive when they're higher quality. And, even the higher quality ones, you might get 100 billion per capsule. But even one serving of a probiotic, a kimchi or a sauerkraut, for you're getting just such massive amounts more when you're taking fermented foods. But, it just, the re-inoculation of the microbiome is just 1 out of 5 steps in the 5R framework to really reset the gut. And, that might be one of the issues for you, but there might be other things going on that also need to be addressed to feel better. And usually when there is imbalances in the gut, that can lead into loss of gut integrity, more inflammation, and need for some of that repair and soothing and other aspects of that 5R framework. So you want to just do more than just probiotics. That's just a good initial start. And maybe that'll solve everything for you. I hope so. But a lot of people coming in, they're all taking all these different things and being on a perfect diet and still having a lot of issues these days, unfortunately.
You hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I shop at, let's just say, Whole Foods because I eat organically." Is it really worth the cost?
So I can hear now, but it just actually went
Okay.
out for a few.
So you hear about Whole Foods and people eating organically. Is it really worth the cost, Dr. Morrow?
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, we just want to recognize that there's certain foods that we shouldn't ever eat when they aren't organic, because they just have such a higher concentration of these pesticides or organophosphates compared to other foods. And so, there's something called the Dirty Dozen. And if you are online right now, you can look it up. And it's a group of foods that we release every year through the Environmental Working Group that shows the highest amount of pesticides are healthy or on that. So whether it's spinach and kale and berries and strawberries are always at the top of the list here, apples. So when you eat these foods here, they go into your body and they cause a lot of inflammation and damage and disruption to the microbiome, and inhibit the processes metabolically of the body. They create inflammation and also just toxic to your liver and kidneys, many of these here as well, and into the brain. So it's not a good thing to be having all the time. A little bit here and there, it's not it's hard to actually avoid, but we want to minimize it because these toxins are cumulative. So we have just one toxin exposure. That's where some research is just on one toxin at a time. But the problem, the research doesn't be able to look at all the hundreds of toxins we're exposed to cumulatively and synergistically act on the body. And so we want to just minimize that. And there's things called the Clean 15. These are, the foods, a list of them that are harder shells, that don't use as many pesticides because bugs don't like them as much. So some of the harder foods and things like that will have that, like mangoes and lemons and things like that. It's not as big of a deal. Still better to be organic. They're higher nutrition. They're, actually given the proper soil and things like that as well. And they don't have all these pesticides as much. So it's a good place to start. It's the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15.
What about supplements? I mean, do we all need supplements, or is the food we eat enough?
Yeah, again, I think answer this question is changing over time, where I feel the food was so just vivacious and robust with life and nutrition in the past, and food is not as nutritious as it used to be for a variety of different reasons, of the soil quality that we even have. We're not rotating our crops, and so a lot of these vegetables will have deficiencies and imbalances innately. So for example, magnesium was one of the main nutritional deficiencies here because it's not really in our soils as much compared to back in the day. And that's one thing. Our digestion is just weaker than ever as well. So we're not able to really process and absorb all the nutrients from the foods we are eating. We are eating so many processed foods that are devoid of nutrients, not eating as many whole foods, all the colors of the rainbow we want to eat, especially for kids. It's a fun way to play with them. And so, to try to eat different colored foods every week. And you have a sticker, and you have the rainbow every week, and you reward them in some ways because all these different colors have different medicinal benefits to the body. And even if you don't know what they are, you just try to get these different colors that they will be beneficial. They protect your body. They create the shield around your system because we're all exposed to all these different toxins in the world around us. And our shields are really low and down. So having these different colors help protect us from all these toxins and these inflammatory mediators. So, there's basics that people want to be, and some people will take a multivitamin if they're not eating as well on days, especially if they aren't eating as well. That's a nice security blanket just to get the basics in. But not all multivitamins are made the same. Some are synthetic, and a lot of them just don't really absorb very well. That they're made to last on the shelf for years at a time. So they use synthetic, for example, cyanocobalamin for B12, when that has cyanide in it, when it breaks down, and it's there just to, again, have a long half-life. But if you get the activated form called methylcobalamin, that's a much better quality. So you can look at a supplement label and it says methylcobalamin, it's probably a high activated there. But then on top of that, vitamin D is another major one. Everyone's real low on that for a variety of different reasons. One, we're not getting enough sun, but also because we need our liver and our kidneys to be able to break down and activate that vitamin D. And so if you aren't getting that sunlight, but also even if you are getting that sunlight, it's not necessarily converting as much. So just supplementing regulates over 300 genes in the genetic codes or connection to the sun and source of life itself. That's another obvious, at least 5,000 per day, even sometimes 10,000 for people that have autoimmune and inflammatory issues, especially during the winter time. This is the time to get it up right before winter. And omega levels, that's also critical. We do omega levels of every patient when they come in, and every patient is really, really low in the severe. Very few people have optimal. I've only had, maybe handful in all of my 10 years that have been in optimal levels. That's how dire that is. No one eats enough fish. And if they did eat enough fish, they probably wouldn't, they probably have a lot of mercury and other toxins in their system, unfortunately. So it's important to get that from a third-party tested company. Omega levels are important because they make the main anti-inflammatory compounds of the body. So that is where we want to focus there.
David, how do people contact your office?
Yeah, you can just go to integrativeWellnessFX.com. Dr. David Morcom. Phone number is 469-333-1298. If you guys have any questions and want to just learn more, we have a great staff that can introduce you to the concepts of our practice with educational resources. We also have something called the Vibrant Life Community Cleanse, and it's a passion project of mine that allows people to do this kind of deep functional medicine work for a fraction of the cost. And very passionate about that work because, there is cost involved and not everyone can afford all the labs and other things. This just gives you the basics of what to do, how to fix the gut, how to detox the system for a fraction of the cost. So you can look at that at www.vibrantlifecommunity.org.
David, we so appreciate your knowledge. David will be back with us again next month. We're sorry about some of the technical difficulties, but we're a live show. David, thank you so much. We'll see you next month.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
And that's going to do it for us today. We'll be back again with you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.